So we're going to be bringing back a little bit of a card discussion segment on the channel. And of course, today we also have our lovely Twitch chat here too. So today I want to talk about the double rare cyclers that they revealed for set 1 of DivineZ. And for my chat that might not know what I'm talking about, it's the ones that were revealed last Thursday. They basically all do different things, and all, you know, half of them kind of plus, others, the other half kind of like gives pressure. But there's some really interesting other things that these cards do in terms of card design that I wanted to touch up on, and so also go over with you guys watching this as well. So all of these cards are double rare grade 1s that are cycle cards, which means that you have to persona right in order for their effects to actually kick off. And so we're going to go through each and every one of them. They revealed one for all of the 6 nations, and it feels nice to say 6 nations now. And the Dragon Empire one to me is the one with the most interesting card design already, which is the Olfa. So she's a grade 1, they're all grade 1s with 8k power, that says when she boosts a rear guard specifically, if you persona road, you can count on +1 to choose one of your units and give it the skill that at the end of this attack, it gets critical -2 until end of turn, and then you increase or decrease its critical to 2. So this might seem kind of weird where it's like, it changes a unit's crit to 2, but then it decreases it. So then you'd be thinking like, okay, well, it's just for 1 attack. And the whole point of this card is that this is a very, very long sought support for decks that only have 3 attacks. So this of course includes the quick start deck for Dragon Empire, but this also includes Buff Sagara, who is a big fan favorite that only has 3 attacks and has always needed these extra ways to form pressure. But I feel like this is the first time that very directly they are saying this is a card that has 0 synergy with multi-attack decks, although technically you could still just like give that extra crit skill to your Vanguard and then your rear guards can still restand as much as they want. But it feels like it's very blatantly saying use me in a 3 attack deck. And I think that that is very interesting because I want to see more of this kind of card design, because I feel like a lot of time with Vanguard, we just kind of go, okay, here's a deck, it's good, how can we make it better? Add more attacks to it. So usually that's the answer, because more attacks means more shield value from your opponent, usually means you're gonna win faster. And so it's cool to me that they're finally designing something that is not necessarily just, you know, add more attacks, and it's actually adding an extra interesting design space to these decks that don't have access to multiple attacks. So whether this is a good card or not kind of depends. I wish it maybe gave out some power because it costs a CB and doesn't generate any resources, but at the very least it does have a very interesting design space that I feel like should be explored more. Now for an actual really good card, we look at the Dark States one, which is Rainbow Breather. She says as long as you persona road this turn, act, you can count +1, soul charge 1, choose a card from soul, call it to rear, and give it +10k. This is huge because, of course, just like the Dark States boss unit from the quick start deck, this also calls out a rear and gives it power, but it also gives you the soul back too. So you're not gonna run out of soul. This is basically like an actual CB1 to +1 with like, you can reuse your on-place abilities. This has so much good synergy with a lot of on-place effects too. And as long as you're running a deck that can persona ride, I feel like this card might see some play, right? If you're building a deck with, you know, from 46 cards and you need those extra 4, this could be one of them, right? I don't know if you need 4 of this, but if you're stuck on what to put in, this is a clear answer. And I feel like this is already one of the best ones. Yeah, like Lukier likes this. It's Laminia 2. Yeah, literally. Wow, how could Laminia be so good if there's no Laminia 2? Well, there you go. This is Laminia 2, but now she's rainbow. So very good card. Dark States is eating incredibly well. It's a simple effect, but the fact that for 1 CB it generates a soul, a +2 board, and +10k power makes you look at the Dragon Empire one and go, why is that one just a crit? So would be nice if, you know, there was a bit more on that front, maybe on the Dragon Empire one, but the Dark States one is just like beautiful. It's really well done, and I think overall it's simple but strong. Now the Brandt Gate one, again, somehow my 2 favorite clans of Brandt Gate and Dragon Empire are the ones that are struggling a little bit, but the Brandt Gate one is another one that is mid-battle, has to boost the rear guard, you have to persona ride, and then you count +1. Until end of battle, your opponent cannot blitz order and also gets battle doored. This card is interesting because again, it's CB1 to not plus. It's CB1 to not generate advantage, which again is like, do I really have the space to be CBing for this? Like, do I have to play Bubble Mine just to play this? But as Ace says in the chat, this is also a card that might get pretty interesting in the future, right? Because right now the synergy for this card is play it in something like a Masks deck where you Persona ride super fast, but then it would have to be a Mask deck that doesn't CB as much because Orpheus CBs quite a lot. This could also be played in Eva, who has a lot of countercharge and also has crit 2 Obscurate rear guards that come with a lot of pressure. So if you put this behind an Obscurate and then that Obscurate is hitting for like, 33, 43 with an extra crit, plus this guard restrict, that actually hurts because now they can't PG without ditching an extra card. They can't Blitz Order either, and there's more good Blitz Orders coming out this set too. So I think she has an interesting niche, I would say, but again, not necessarily the craziest card, but another interesting design choice that feels like it's trying to introduce something. It kind of reminds me of Glory Maker. Yes, thank you, Cat Blast. Glory Maker is the one I'm talking about. This kind of reminds me of Glory Maker a little bit, so maybe more of that kind of stuff. And then we have the Stoicheia and Keter ones, which if you compare them side by side, even their arts look very similar. And even if you can't read Japanese and you look at their text, the things written are the exact same, basically. So both of them say if you Persona roll this turn, Keter must one look at top 3 and choose one grade 3 or less unit, call it to rear, and then the Keter one puts the remaining cards to the bottom of the deck and gives herself plus 10k. The Stoicheia one ditches the rest of them and gives herself plus 10k. So they literally do the exact same thing. They both generate a plus and give out 10k power. So for some reason, Dark States, Keter, and Stoicheia are allowed to do that. And they also, like the Stoicheia one, I guess you could say is slightly maybe worse because it ditches anything it finds there, right? So if you don't call the OT that is in there, you're gonna have to ditch it. And on the Keter side, you get to put it back to the bottom of the deck, which again is like, this is a very easy to use, very generic card. This can fit in virtually everything, right? You can basically use this in Youth to proc all of your like Revolt Form Searchers. You could use this grade 1 in Leonorn to potentially like find, I guess Leonard maybe is a bit tough one, more of a Zorga card, I guess, where you actually care about your drop zone. And it could also be something for future decks too. So they're both fine, like CB1 to plus and give power is like great, but a bit less interesting. It almost feels like it's a different person designing the cards for these same nations. So that's maybe something that leaves a little bit to be desired. But then we finish on the Lyrical one, and this one again has a bit more of a creative skill to herself too, where she, when she boosts her rear guard, if you Persona roll this turn, Cattle Must 1 and Soul Boss 1, so the cost is different for this one, to give your Vanguard the skill that all rear guards get plus 5k, and at the end of the battle she puts herself to the bottom of the deck. So this one is literally Valshablan on, a body, right? You don't have to, you still have to Persona ride for this, but you don't have to necessarily, like commit this in a weird spot. With Valshablan, you often had to put her like behind the Vanguard or something, right? Because she's disturbing your Willista columns, she's disturbing your Prism columns. This one you can just kind of put as a booster, and you just have to boost the rear guard, and it can be the first battle that she boosts. So even if her attack is 28 and you use that skill, you immediately are going to be giving all rear guards plus 5k, including herself. So that 28k column immediately becomes a 38, which is pretty good. And then everything else after that is also very strong. And technically, if you have the Counterbots and Soul Blast, you could use this multiple times, and it's very, very generic. So especially the Lyrical one feels like one that is built to be good in the future. And I'm very curious to see what decks will make use of this one too. So those are the double rare cycle cards. And I think I just kind of wanted to go over them because there's some very interesting design spaces being explored here, especially with the Dragon Empire one. And there's some cards that like the Brandt as well as the Lyrical one that feel like they could be some pretty huge support for something in the future that maybe just hasn't been figured out just yet. But another video I want to do about cycle cards is of course about the triple rare cycle cards in this set with the alternate cost. But I'm waiting for all of the nations to be revealed because so far we only know the Dark States one, the Stoicheia one, the Keter one, as well as the Brandt Gate one. So we're gonna wait for them to reveal the other two that we're still missing and then do a big video like this again, going over all 6 and the very interesting kind of dichotomy of the alternate cost as well of those cards. But with that, that's gonna be it for me today. If you like this video, give it a like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. But otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.